Aloha and welcome. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about command line arguments. And command line arguments are really helpful when you're programming. Sometimes the book uses the example of sometimes you don't know the name of the file that you're going to be working with, so you can specify the file as one of your command lines or command line arguments. So that's one way. I often do configuration type things, so I'll be sending in configuration information as well. So let me go ahead and share the screen and show you how we use command line arguments. So the first thing you need to do is you need to import sys, because you're going to be using something called sys.argv. And we'll just go ahead and print that out to show you what sys.argv is. So when we run our program, we see that it's a list here. And that list, it has one item, and that item is our script name. So that's interesting. What happens if we were to go in here and manually run this, and then say boo, just type in, so when I'm running it in VS Code, it automatically fills this in. So this is the Python executable. And then it's calling on the file that we have. And then we're calling on this extra argument here, boo. So when I go ahead and execute this, we're going to see that we now have our script name plus boo. So that is very nice to know that as you add things on there, we can add on, we can say boo and then hi. And then we'll see that our array has grown here. So you see that we can, since we have a list here, an array, a list, same thing, we can go ahead and access different elements of it. So one thing that you have to keep in mind is you need to be aware of how many elements you have here in the list. If you don't supply an argument there and you try to access that argument, you're going to get an index error. So what you want to do often is check the length of argv here. So if you check the length here, you will see that you have length of 1. So if we were to print out argv, we would see sys.argv, and it's exactly 1. If we were to redo that with boo, then we're going to see that the length is 2, and as you can see there, it is 2. So you could do something like this, where you said for item in sys.argv, then argv, go and print out the item. Then we would have over here each item. Well, there's only one when we do it that way, but if we manually type in boo, and then item 2, then hi, then you, then we're going to go and we're going to loop through all those. So this is one way you can send in multiple arguments. It's nice if you want to do something. Let's say you had like an exchange rate that you're working with, and you wanted to send in an exchange rate for that day. So you can go ahead and send in the exchange rate for something as your argument. The problem with doing it this way is you have to keep in mind as a user what the order is for each of those arguments. So you'll have to say that the first argument sent in is for your this, or your second argument is going to be this value. It's kind of set. There are ways of using keyword arguments, and we're not going to get into that now, but we can do keyword arguments where you say, let's say interest rate equals a number, and then the next thing you can specify them by name. We're not going to get into that right now. We're just talking about using the built-in, the sys.argv, which gives you a list of the arguments that are sent into here. It could be the file name, it could be whatever, but the way you access it is by sys.argv, and you can grab the different ones. So let me, instead of doing the item there, let me show you afterwards what I was talking about if you want to access them individually. So we could say sys.argv of 0 here and just print that out. So when we go over here, we get that, but let's comment this out so it doesn't look as confusing. So we run that, we get the one value here. But if we were to try to access like the number 1, let's say that we normally run this with something. If we try to access that and we don't actually have that specified, we're going to hit the index out of range thing because it only has the one item in there, and that's going to be the file name itself. So if we were to go in there and change it and put boo in there, it would run, it would be fine. And if we did boo and then hi, it would be fine. But the problem is going to come in that when we just run it without any arguments on it, and we are asking for 1, yeah, we're going to run into trouble. So it's just customary that if you're going to, you shouldn't assume that you have an argument in there. If you're going to do something that if you're going to try to use an argument that's sent in, what you need to do is say if length of sys.argv is, let's say if sys.argv is greater than 1, then print we have an argument. And then we can have as the else here, print, but there were no arguments given. So if we do that, let's go ahead and comment out the rest of this code. We run this and we get, but there are no arguments given because of course we have nothing there. But if we were to put in an argument there at the end, we would say we have an argument. So what I want to instill upon you is that you can send in command line arguments. You can send in like a file name. You can send in like, let's say if your program was doing translation, not translation, but if it was doing daily conversion of, let's say I wanted to change yen to dollars, I'd need to know the daily rate. So I could send in the daily rate as the argument. So I'd need to check here to see if I actually sent in an argument. If I did, then I can use that number. You can do other error checking as well. You can make sure that it's an integer. You'd probably have to cast it as an integer, do a conversion to integer since it's coming as a string, then convert to an integer, and then use that to do your calculations. But you'd always want to check to see that they sent in an actual argument by using length of sys.argv. So that concludes this section. This is a real short, easy one. It's a fun thing to be able to send in arguments for different purposes. If you have any questions about this, feel free to send me an email or just ask, and I'd be happy to set up a one-on-one Zoom call with you to go through it. So anyway, I will see you in the next lesson. Have a great day.